Cortland Simmons with our continuing reports on Super Saturday and Sunday for the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships right here on the CS Racing Report. And we've gone over some of the top races that are going to be run. We're really getting to the good stuff where the real running begins. Of course, that's the case in all of these races. But in addition to the Turf Classic and the Lucas Classic, which we've talked about, the Chandelier for the 2-year-old fillies, as well as the Awesome again out at Santa Anita, what's interesting is there's a couple other events also. Santa Anita will also host a Rodeo Drive Stakes for the fillies going 1.25 miles on the lawn. That's going to be a very, very interesting matchup between Vasilika and Cambodia. Those two horses are going to go in there at the 1.25 mile distance. They're favorite, but we'll see if some other horses will punch their possible ticket to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf in there. And then another race that I think a lot of people should be intrigued by, even though these horses are running on the turf, and we have a juvenile turf race on the Breeders' Cup card, in 2018, we saw a lot of horses come off the turf to the dirt and try to make their mark on the dirt for the Triple Crown Trail. So I think that that's going to be an ongoing trend. If you have 2-year-old prowess, you have speed, if you show stamina, that is going to, conjure up the interest and spark the interest of the connections to possibly say, let's take a look at some of the dirt races, see if we can make the switch. And then perhaps if it doesn't work out, we can always go back to the turf. And so with that being said, the Pilgrim Stakes at 1.16 miles is going to be run at Belmont Park on this undercard of races that we're going to talk about in addition to the Turf Classic, and you know what event that is. That's 1.16 miles. There's some interesting horses in here. Bill Mott, of course, has a horse in here, and the With Anticipation Stakes, Opry is in here. 9-5 for Todd Pletcher. Very impressive if you go YouTube that. The With Anticipation at Saratoga. He blew by a horse by the name of Some Like It Hot and Brown. Some Like It Hot Brown out of the Michael Maker barn. Blew by him in the stretch. Very impressive performance. Lovely turn of foot. People are going to be curious as to whether he's going to be a turf superstar or whether that ability will translate a little bit on the dirt as well. But he's a very interesting horse no matter what Todd Pletcher has in his arsenal for the 2019 Kentucky Derby and in the immediate future what moves he'll make for the Breeders' Cup. But that race is going to be 1.16 miles on the turf. The Pilgrim Stakes, $200,000 for the 2-year-olds. We'll recap that here on the CS Racing Report. Meantime, another event that I think a lot of you are looking forward to hearing about is the matchup between the #1 horse in the country, Accelerate, who has been very, very impressive. He's won 3 times at 1.25 miles. He's running in his final prep at Santa Anita. That'll be part of the NBC Sports Network telecast. The Awesome Again Stakes, 1.8 miles. 3-year-olds and up, going that 9 furlongs, grade 1. And the interesting thing is not only will this be Accelerate's final tune-up for the Breeders' Cup, but there's another horse in here that could provide a challenge, or perhaps Accelerate once again blows away his opposition. And his name is West Coast. He has been idle since his second place runs in the Pegasus and his last race, the Dubai World Cup, where he finished second to Thunder Snow on what was considered to be a speed favoring track. And we'll talk more about that Dubai Festival of Racing, where West Coast finished second the last time he was seen competing. He's been on a very prolonged layoff, equivalent to what McKenzie, the kind of time off that McKenzie had prior to him winning the Pennsylvania Derby the previous week for Bob Baffert. He comes in, this is his prep, this is his final opportunity, or his one and only opportunity to get ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And Bob Baffert, definitely things have to go extremely well for this horse to be able to qualify. Obviously, beating Accelerate would be the ultimate way to punch his ticket to the Breeders' Cup. It's a win and you're in race, win and you're in race as well. If he can win, or if he runs very well and gives Accelerate a run for his money in this 1.8 mile race. It drew a field of 6. Shades of Victory is 50-1. Isotherm is 15-1. Prime Attraction is a little bit lower on the totem pole. He and the Lieutenant, coming out of the 3 and 4 holes respectively, are both 10-1. But they were well beaten in their last couple races. In their stakes, the quality of their performances, some are surprised that the odds are that low. West Coast is 7-5. He'll be the second choice. Accelerate is a 3-5 favorite. And of course, everyone wants to know, who am I picking? Well, you know, I love Bob Baffert's horses, and I would say unequivocally, if there had been some activity, all the inactivity would is going to, make me be a little less confident that West Coast can knock Accelerate off in here. I'm very curious to see what his fitness level is at this added distance of 1 1/8 miles, and from that point, depending on how he runs on this day, how he'll perform in Kentucky, and then we'll see if he turns the corner, as Bob Baffert liked to call it. Some horses really take the Churchill Downs, and if West Coast runs well here and he takes the Churchill Downs in his preparation well, look out, he's going to be a prime contender. But I think a lot of people, not only myself, but many hardened journalists and bettors and handicappers, are going to be a little nervous about his chances going against a horse who's been doing this well in Accelerate, who's won 3 times at the 10 furlong distance. He's going at 1 1/8 miles here, where it would seem that would be, a piece of cake for him. So it'll be very interesting to see. I'm picking Accelerate probably to win this race, but then again, you know me, I love Bob Baffert. I like West Coast in here, but very, very difficult to say for sure. A lot of you folks are certainly going to use both of these horses and flip both of them, that West Coast could possibly beat Accelerate, and then Accelerate on top with West Coast second. Seems to be a bit of a talent gap between those two horses and the rest of the field, but I think that there may be some value. You never know what can happen, as I've aforementioned, but right now it would appear, until otherwise noted, that West Coast and Accelerate are the two horses to beat. Accelerate is going to be the prohibitive favorite. West Coast, at this point, given the inactivity, is just a challenger. We shall see. Of course, I'm going to pick Accelerate to win by, just a narrow margin, but it wouldn't surprise me if West Coast jumps up and wins this race. We'll certainly recap it here, no matter what the outcome is, right here on the CS Racing Report, the 2018 edition of the Awesome Again, featuring a matchup between Accelerate and Bob Baffert's West Coast.